So if you made it to the end of our normal difficulty Let's Play for the Leap Attack Barbarian, you've made it into Nightmare, you've done some Charcy farming for gear, and now you're taking one or two paths of advice. You're either going and farming the Countess to get some of those really good Runewords, you might just head straight off to farming Andariel to get some of that gear, or some combination of these two activities. Let me show you what I walked away from both our Andariel and our Countess farming with so that you get a better idea of what you're going to need to finish Nightmare difficulty. So just to recap kind of what we had and what we were looking for in that shopping, I have a smattering of gear here to give you an idea of what I was using at various points to be able to do both the Andariel farming and the Countess farming. Initially, we had started off with just the basic magic mob that we had made with the 3-chip gem recipe. We had thrown some things in there like increased maximum damage, attack rating, as well as an Eth rune for minus target defense. And then I went and crafted a pretty nasty pair of Crushing Blow gloves. So this is a perfect ruby, a Neph rune, and a jewel along with magic heavy gloves, and it's going to roll life leech, crushing blow, in life. Ours just so happened to also roll mana leech, and it rolled perfect crushing blows. These are really nice gloves. Gear that's just nice to get is something like these 20 increased attack speed along with massive fire res gloves. Following that trend, any gear that can gain you access to hit recovery and additional resistances if you don't have a stealth rune word already, or if you don't happen to get lucky and be able to make a smoke. Even an arm piece like this can shore up a lot of your defenses. Being able to shop easy amounts of magic find both on your gloves and your boots can gain you that pivotal amount of magic find that you really need to start dropping good sets and good uniques. And then what I would like to refer to either as Taste the Rainbow or the Power Rangers, just a full set of 30 plus total resistance against the primary res that you can get. Heck, you can even get huge res with magic find. Now these are all things again that you could shop from Charcy, and you can mix and match the type of gear that you need to fit the particular resistances that you're missing, especially if you're still using the two-hander and you don't have access to a shield slot. Obviously, if you happen to pick up a really good one-handed weapon, you could always throw on the Ancient's Pledge that we made initially and we were using on our Act 3 Mercenary. But at least this early in Nightmare, I'd really recommend trying to prioritize magic find and damage as much as you can, because you can probably survive most scenarios, especially if you've put the 5 points into battle orders like we recommended previously. So what we did first is we went and farmed Andariel. I already had good enough gear where I didn't think I needed to farm the Countess to gain access to either Black Rune Word or a new melee weapon Rune Word. I really felt like the Maul was going to carry us as much as it needed to, and I already found like our survivability was good enough, so I started stacking as much magic find as possible. From that farming session, I got 5 pieces of gear that I think really highlight why we're trying to farm Nightmare Andariel this early, especially since your mobility is good enough that even on randomized maps on Battle.net, it's not that bad getting to her. I did about 3 hours of farming while on stream, and this was running very bad maps. I actually chose to not reset until I got good maps because I wanted to better replicate what it would be like just running randomized maps on Battle.net. Keep in mind, on single player, it would be even more efficient, re-rolling maps until you get a really nice setup that leads directly to Andariel. The first piece of gear that we picked up off Andariel that really changed the game for us was actually the meat scraper of all items. Being able to easily use our next level up point just to pop into Polearm Mastery, get that crit, AR, and enhanced damage, and we're able to benefit from the +3 to masteries, the decent weapon damage itself, the increased attack speed so that when we land, we're actually attacking faster in that animation. Polearm has a massive range as well, so we're able to hit from further away, and then that 10 life leech along with additional open wounds and magic find both upped our drop rate of good items, increased our overall kill speed, and increased our survivability. The best part about this weapon is that it also goes a long way to increase your natural resistance and increase speed from the masteries tree. So not only are you doing more damage with the weapon from the weapon specific mastery, but you're gaining upwards of 20 additional all resistance and another 10% run walk speed. The best part about this weapon is that when we're done with it and we're actually transitioning into Nightmare Act 2, where I intend on picking up a Thorns Mercenary, this weapon will absolutely carry your mercenary all the way into hell, giving them the life leech that they need to actually be able to survive monsters while you're farming. After that, we actually got into the Fetid Sprinkler. Now this is a really big pickup. Just checking the difference between this one-handed weapon and this two-handed weapon, you see that the max and min damage are actually not that far off, and in fact you're getting almost triple the total minimum damage and you're only losing about a quarter off of the top end damage. But on top of that, and those 2 curses right there are huge. So the way that Decrepify is going to work is that can apply to all monster types, and Confuse can only apply to non-boss and non-elite monsters. So while the Confuse proc goes off, causing monsters kind of fight amongst themselves, so you gain a little bit of crowd control there, The Decrepify won't be overridden by Confuse when it goes off, so every time it goes off on a boss monster, you are drastically increasing our physical damage against them, since Decrepify will reduce their physical res by 50. So not only does it increase our weapon damage, but also the AoE damage from Leap Attack itself. This weapon right here is a huge pickup. There are a lot of great weapons in this slot that you could get from Andariel. I was hoping to get a Bone Snap as well. Any big damage weapon that's going to get us access to either additional curses, Life Leech, Survivability, or Crushing Blow would be key to being able to continue to progress up into hell and get really good clear speed against high value targets. We picked up a nice little piece, and I think this one is probably like one of the most underrated amulets in the game, but it's Mahimo Curio. Sure, it doesn't say a lot, but what it does say is bonus to your attack rating, which every melee class needs. 10 all attributes, which is plus 10 to dex, so if you happen to be using a shield, that's easier block chance. It also is 10 strength, which is 10% enhanced damage off weapon, 10 to your vitality, which is a whopping 30 hit points, and then 10 all resistance, so that's minus 10% damage from all damage types other than physical and magic. And then we got the piece de resistance, the 3-piece Saigons across belt, boots, and gloves. The boots here are going to get you faster unlock, the 40 cold res, along with flat attack rating and 50 magic find. Belt getting you flat life and fire resistance off the jump, and then additional defense. And the gloves with the attack rating and 10 strength, which again, 10 enhanced damage off weapon, and then the 30 increased attack speed when you have the 3-set bonus here. The best part too is that you get that massive 10% life leech. So when we were using this in the meat scraper, we had 20% life leech walking into Nightmare on absolute crap gear. But other than missing out on the angelic set between the ring and the amulet, this was by far my most sought after set acquisition from Nightmare Andariel. I'm really glad that we got our hands on this. Now, as far as the armor and the helmet, I was just using crap topaz gems in pieces of gear. You'll notice that we've upgraded to a 4 topaz and a 3 topaz helmet. Now, the way that we got this, so at one point I just dropped a gothic plate that had 4 sockets. I was waiting to use a 3-socketed armor, so I was prioritizing using a horned helm since I already had a 3-socketed helm, and it's really easy for you to find a 3-socketed helm over the 4-socketed armor. But what I would do is, while running through catacombs, there are a ton of poppables. There are sarcophagi and chests. I would open every single one of them, and every time that I found a flawless topaz, I would go to Stony Field. The reason why you want to go to Stony Field is that Stony Field has the best chances of getting a gem shrine. Taking a flawless gem and clicking a gem shrine is obviously going to give you a perfect gem, and it saves you needing 3 flawless gems to cube up. Every flawless gem you get is technically a perfect gem, as long as you're patient enough to run through Stony Field and look for shrines. Re-rolling maps until you have a bunch of shrines directly around the waypoint will give you the fastest way to get your gem shrines up, and just be patient. You can definitely just slot flawless gems in, and on a 4-piece set, that's only going to lose you 16 magic find. On a 3-piece set, it's only going to lose you 12 magic find. We were patient and we waited. On this setup, I have 227 magic find, and we actually have more options for magic find as well, but that is more than enough magic find for farming Nightmare Andariel and any other farming that you're going to do preparing for hell. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the Countess farming section of this is, what do you do with a mercenary when you're farming something like Andariel, who is going to kill every single mercenary lickety split? And the outcome that I came to was actually the Act 3 mercenary. While farming Andariel, I found 3 pieces of gear that you would probably throw away most of the times, and these were key to increasing our overall efficiency. First was picking up Venom Ward. Now, you'd think throwing this onto an Act 2 mercenary, they absolutely should be able to survive Andariel. The problem being that Act bosses do additional damage to mercenaries, and your mercenary, even with the meat scraper in hand, cannot survive Andariel's poison. There's just no way for him to do it at this point. So the Venom Ward wasn't going to do anything to save his life. But if you weren't aware, Act 3 mercenaries actually have the highest base defense in the game. So right now, even though we're a bit over leveled than we were before, this level 61 Iron Wolf in Nightmare alone is already overcapped on resistance. When you get him closer down to that level 40 range, when you should be starting Nightmare, he's going to be sitting somewhere around 40 to 50% resistance across the board. And then throwing the Venom Ward on him brings him up to that 90 poison res. He's only taking 10% damage from Andariel. And on top of that, he has poison length reduction at this point, so he's not getting hit by a massive amount of additional poison length. The next piece of gear quite literally gets thrown away all of the time, and this was really big in helping us make our decision, because I was thinking, do I sit there and make an edge rune word and then use an Act 1 mercenary? Hellplaque looks like a pretty crappy sword, except it says +2 to fire skills, and it just so happens that an Act 3 mercenary can use swords. If they're doing on average 700 damage with their their fireball and also casting an enchant on us, which was getting us a massive amount of attack rating, which was really important to help us hit before we had better gear and more levels. And then a little bit of fire damage. Oh, on top of that, Andariel has negative fire resistance, so actually take extra damage from fire sources. That meant that every time that we were hitting with enchant, we were doing extra damage, and this fireball was doing a decent amount too. Let's go ahead and throw on that hell plaque, and all of a sudden the average damage now is closer to 800, and we're gaining an additional 30% attack rating, and I don't know, maybe about 20 additional flat damage for fire. This was just a huge pickup as well to increase his overall kill speed, and he almost never died against Andariel. The last piece of gear that was really important while we were initially using Ancient's Pledge, just so he had a better time surviving everything else that came our way, I actually picked up a Wall of the Eyeless. So this was really important because it's gaining him 2 FCR breakpoints, so he's casting spells that much faster. And then on top of that, we ended up just picking up this nice all-res helmet, which actually will be really nice on our Act 2 mercenary later when we upgrade it. Put that all together, and you had a mercenary that was overcapped on res, was using a 2-frame faster attack, and it was doing about 800 damage per fireball in an area around it. But now let's talk about the Runewords that I went and farmed the Countess for, so that we'd be able to make them both for ourselves and any other mercenaries that we end up using later on. While you can see I did find a base for it and I got some of the runes, I never ended up dropping a soul rune, so I wasn't able to make an insight runeward for our mercenary. In addition to that, we didn't find the runes to be able to make a lore helmet, which getting us +1 all skill and 30 light resistance. Now that being said, we already did have really good options as far as resistance in barbarian helms, as well as this kind of better than lore version right here, 2 to war cries that gains us free access to battle orders, increased speed, and Grimward. This helmet was absolutely nuts. This was from our Nightmare Imbue, so I wasn't really sweating not being able to make a lore helmet for ourselves. But if you happen to find a 2-socket barbarian helmet that had really good plus skills in it, battle command, battle orders, battle cry, find item, Grimward, increased speed, natural resistance, any of these skills, it would be huge to be able to make a lore in it. What we did find were the runes to be able to make some other really pivotal pieces. If we hadn't found a weapon, being able to make a black runeword from Thul Io Nef is massive. Increased speed, enhanced damage, big attack rating, and then that 40 chance of crushing blow. This is the penultimate early game barbarian weapon to be able to increase your kill speed against bosses and tankier monsters. Nice vitality, a little bit of magic damage reduction as well. The reason why we have it in a flail is because you can easily shop that from Act 2 Farah in normal. But if you happen to find a better 3-socket weapon, absolutely build the black in that as well, to be able to get you access to a lot more damage. For survivability, you really cannot go wrong with a Rhyme Shield. So this is a Shale and an Eth. I recommend picking up a Bone Shield from Drognin in Act 2 normal, because it's going to have a decent lock chance without you needing to invest any dexterity into it. Not only does it gain you access to 25 all resistance as well as magic find, but the really important stat of cannot be frozen. Or if you happen to get lucky and drop the runes in the base that you need, you could go ahead and make yourself a Spirit Runeword. Obviously, Spirit Runeword is the best starter caster item in the game, but we get to use it on Leap Attack as well. Giving me that +2 skills here is going to give us access to +2 to Mace Mastery, +2 to Leap as well, and all of a sudden gaining about 40 average damage on the weapon swing itself, and then 100 average damage on the Leap Attack AoE. Oh, and on top of that, it's gaining us an additional 14 all resistance from our natural res skill, another 7% faster run walk from increased speed, 6% additional max life and max mana from battle orders. It's also gaining us another 20 seconds duration on both that and battle command, another 2% minus enemy damage and minus 4% enemy defense, and an additional 8% chance to find item. Since Leap Attack is only going to use your main hand's weapon for attacking, being able to put a Spirit Sword on swap is like being able to run a free shield, but for much cheaper and much earlier, since it's going to be a long time before you get your hands on a Monarch. I personally had left farming Nightmare Andariel and Nightmare Countess around level 50 to 53. And by the time I was done with that farming, I had picked up at least 1 point into Find Potion, Find Item, and Grimward, since I knew I was going to be farming in more dangerous areas, so the CC from Grimward goes a long way, as well as increasing our overall damage output. Gaining access to even like a 30% effective find item means that when we inevitably end up farming Nightmare Eldritch in Pindle, a third of the time we're going to be increasing the number of drops by 2. We had fully maxed out Leap and Leap Attack. I put an additional point into natural resistance just in case I wasn't running plus skills. I still wanted to be around the 20 additional all res here. And there are a couple different places that you could go. You could either start statting additional battle orders here for more survivability, or more into your primary weapon mastery to be able to increase the chances of you hitting, since your weapon damage is going to become more and more important as we progress into hell. So you might think that at this point, a Might Mercenary makes a lot of sense, right? So Leap Attack itself already carries 1030% enhanced damage off weapon. And then even with a couple points into Mace Mastery, you're probably getting somewhere around like 50 to 70 additional enhanced damage. It means we're sitting on over 1100 enhanced damage at this point. So that enhanced damage on Might Aura is literally a drop in the bucket. You're going from multiplying your total weapon damage by 11 to multiplying it by 12. The second option that a lot of people are going to be looking at is something like Holy Freeze. And while Holy Freeze is good for survivability, your mercenary might shatter a corpse, which means you won't be able to hork it. The true MVP here is actually going to be a Thorns Aura Mercenary. At this point, monsters are going to be hitting you a lot, and they're going to be alive long enough where them hitting you over time and returning upwards of 7 times their damage to themselves is really going to add up, especially against bosses who do a ton of physical damage. At around level 50, this is only actually doing about 700 damage returned, maybe 690 damage returned, so it's a little bit less than what's on the screen right now, but it will go a long way to increase your overall kill speed, especially if you're target farming bosses and stronger super uniques and uniques. Here, I'll just show you the compilation of us getting through the rest of Nightmare. In Act 2, you just want to prioritize getting the Radament quest done so you can get that extra skill point. Don't forget to do all the important quests in Act 1 as well. That includes Den, saving Cain, and getting the Malice back to Charcy. Act 3, you just want to worry about getting the bird, getting Liam Neeson's tome. You also want to do the Gidbin for a chance at a nice rare ring, and then get through killing Mephisto as fast as possible. Now, there's a chance that you could target farm Mephisto. I really wouldn't recommend this. The reason why target farming Andariel was nice is because it got us access to easy monsters to kill along the way, a lot of poppables to get us the gems that we needed to fill out our magic find, and then target farming her is actually really easy because you can abuse stuff like the Act 3 Mercenary for minus fire resistance. Mephisto, though, especially on Battle.net, is going to be really difficult to get to the majority of the time. Leap is really clunky in that area, and even with teleport staff, it's just difficult to get through the overall labyrinth that is the Durance of Hate. So I'd really recommend ignoring this if you can manage to pull yourself away from it. Once you're into Act 4, just make sure to kill Izzy, do that Hellforge for a chance at a decent rune. Also look out for like Lum and Foul rune. We're hoping to make a Lionheart runeword armor at some point. You actually could, on single player, target farm Diablo at this point. Leap Attack has such great mobility that getting into Chaos really doesn't take that much time at all. And on Players 1 settings, killing the seal boss is actually really quick. They die incredibly fast, as well as having a massive leap radius so that you can CC everything on the screen. Again, it wouldn't be my first pick for doing at this point, but you could if you were really itching to just start target farming something. Then you're into Act 5. Again, you want to prioritize getting all the important quests done. You want to kill Shank, you want to free the Bubbas, you want to save Anya to get yourself another Primal Helm as well as the All-Res Scroll. And what I would recommend is stopping here and target farming Eldritch and Pindle. On Battle.net, you can do them on Players 1, just run both of them really quickly if you aren't able to get yourself into Bale or Chaos runs for experience. But on single player, bump it up to Players 8. When we walked there at level 53, we were easily able to kill everything on Players 8 just with the gear that I showed you. Just making sure to maximize as much magic find as possible and hitting find item on the boss's bodies without accidentally blowing them up. Getting the Ancient Stone was an absolute piece of cake. We didn't even have to drop extra potions on the ground. But if you find yourself struggling, they are going to roll with affixes here. Just open up a town portal to reset them. You want to avoid stuff like Cursed as well as really dangerous auras. And then go and kill Bale. Bale was super easy. For really high health bosses like Bale, I threw on my Crushing Blow gloves as well as my Black Flail just to get as much early damage on him as possible. And then when you get him down to low enough life, swap back over to whichever set of weapons is going to have the most magic find and get that first quest Bale kill. I do not recommend solo farming Bale or Bale waves if you're on single player. I'd much rather you farm Eldritch and Pindle because you can use find item on them and you're going to do so many more runs of those so much more quickly than target farming Bale. And there you have it. You just got yourself through Nightmare. Lickety split. I promised it was going to be easy. Just remember that type of itemization choices that you can make walking out of Act 1 Nightmare, where you've target farmed Andariel and you've made good rune words so that you can shore up any survivability issues or resistance issues that you have while stacking as much damage and much magic find as possible. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope that this helps. I hope that you're liking these kind of longer form type videos where I'm going over a lot more of the nuances of how you can be thinking about your itemization and your prioritization so that you can build your own character. And I also hope we're making a pretty good argument for just how efficient Leap Attack is, both as a mobility skill and as an overall great melee build. I know it's kind of cheating, it's got that AoE component to it, but what I hear so often is there isn't a good early game melee barbarian setup, and I think Leap Attack is it. Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.